Today we are ranking every SMG in Fortnite throughout the entire game's history. So there is a long list and we're going to rank them from worst to best. So this should be interesting to go through these. Starting off 17th place on the list, I've gone with the Scoped Burst. I'm not a huge fan of this with the scope. I don't think this is a terrible weapon, but I definitely much prefer all the other types of SMGs, such as the Thunder Burst, coming in at 16th place. I don't really dislike this one, but I definitely prefer the regular type of SMGs over the bursts, so that's why this is low on the list. Same goes with just the regular burst SMG, coming in at 15th place as well, mainly for the same reason. 14th place, the Charge SMG. This one isn't too bad. Again, not a fan of these types of SMGs, but this, in my opinion, probably the best burst type of SMG, but I definitely just prefer the regular fire rates. Now 13th place, the Suppressed SMG. This released all the way back in Chapter 1 Season 1, was in the game since the beginning, and this was always the SMG that I tried to avoid using. The suppressor just makes it feel less powerful, and it didn't really feel that good to use in my opinion, so that's why it's all the way down in 13th. 12th place, Twin Mag SMG. This one isn't too bad. I do like the fire rate on this. The damage feels good, but I think there are so many better options. And I've got the Primal SMG in 11th place. This one might be a little bit controversial. A lot of people disliked the Primal loot pool during Chapter 2 Season 6, but this wasn't actually too bad in my opinion. I also wasn't a huge fan of the Primal loot pool, but the SMG wasn't terrible, so I've got it around the middle of the list. Now the Machine SMG is in 10th place for me. This one also felt quite good to use. The fire rate was good, and it feels like you could just shred through people's builds with this. If somebody's in a box, you can just shred through it with this, and it wasn't too bad. But the Hyper SMG is coming in at 9th place. I feel like this just was an average SMG. Nothing very good to say about it in my opinion, but nothing terrible, so I've just put it around the middle of the list. And then the Harbinger SMG in 8th place. This is one of the current SMGs in the game, and this is an SMG that I do enjoy using. It's got a decent magazine clip, good fire rates, and obviously with this one you can add mods, whereas you couldn't with some of the older ones from Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. So this one does kind of make it difficult to rank in comparison, but let's just say with no mods, this is still a good SMG, the Harbinger, so I've got it quite high on the list. And the Stinger SMG, 7th place for me. This released all the way back in Chapter 3 Season 1, and this was quite a popular SMG at the time. A lot of people were saying it's broken, and I feel like this was the go-to SMG during that season, and it was for me as well. Really enjoyed using it, that's why I've got it quite high on the list. 6th place, we've got the Rapid Fire SMG. Although this did have quite a smaller magazine size and not the highest damage output, it still felt very good. You could shred through builds with this, and it felt like a very quick SMG that you could just spray instantly. And it did come in many different rarities. You could get a legendary version, which obviously was a lot better. Some SMGs in the game only went up to blue rarity, so this one was very good to use in my opinion. Maybe a little bit higher than a lot of people might agree with, but for me, I really liked using it. Now we're getting on to the really good ones, the top 5. So 5th place, I've gone with the Combat SMG. This did have a fast fire rate, and the recoil was quite high on this, but if controlled accurately, this could be very effective. Maybe a little bit too high on the list, but I think it was a good weapon. 4th place, we've got the Submachine Gun. This was short-ranged and a high fire rate SMG, and I feel like this really did the job. This obviously released back in Chapter 1, one of the older SMGs, but I feel like it did feel quite effective. Although when using this, it felt like if you just sprayed someone, your entire magazine was over in like 2 seconds. I feel like the high fire rate is because of that, but still, it felt like quite a powerful weapon. 3rd place, Compact SMG. This released back in Chapter 1 Season 5, around the time of the spray and pray meta, and this was one of the popular weapons around that time. It had 50 ammo per magazine, and I always enjoyed using it. It felt really smooth to use, especially when shredding through builds. 2nd place, TAC SMG. Might be nostalgia bias, but I always loved using this. Always used to use it back in Chapter 1. It felt very balanced and the fire rate felt very smooth. Later in Chapter 1 they did add a new rarity with the legendary, which was amazing, but even just the regular versions, it just felt so good to use. And coming in at first place, you might be able to guess it. It is of course the drum gun. Although it does use heavy bullets, it's still in the SMG category. Amazing fire rate, good magazine size, and this was probably one of the most popular SMGs in the game for quite a while. A lot of people used it during the spray and pray meta, and it was even a little bit overpowered for a while. Obviously then later on during the game, specifically Chapter 2 Season 2, we did get the mythic version from Midas, which was a little bit overpowered, but still really good to use, and it had to be first place on the list for me. So that is my list, ranking every SMG. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, in terms of what you disagree with or agree with. And for now, there's a load more videos on screen here. Make sure to click another one to keep on watching, and I'll see you over there.